right, well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks, Brad, and thanks to Network Center for putting this on and having us. Just what an amazing event. What a great turnout. I think it's a testament to the relationship that you guys have with Network Center and the impact that together you guys are having on your businesses. Before I turn things over to Matt, though, I just wanted to lead off with not only a thank you, but also to stress the importance of our partners like Network Center. We are a company that drives about 90% of our commercial revenue through a channel. And for that reason, we've always been a partner-led company, and we always will be a partner-led company. The reality is, Microsoft can't reach our ambition of empowering every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more without companies like Network Center to go out and do that. And for that reason, you guys should look to them as the strategic advisor that can help you not only with the technology needs of today, but what's going to happen in the future. They are a great guide for what's going to be coming down in terms of not only technology, but how that can be transferred or translated into business value for your company over the long term. And today we're going to be focusing on continuing the conversation around security and identity management. It's a white hot topic out there today. And I'm glad to have Matt with us. Matt's going to take you through not only the storyline of how Microsoft can help you in this regard, but also show you some of the proof points, some of the technology that we have around our enterprise mobility and security suite, and a number of key features that we think can have an immediate impact on your business and securing you for the long term. So with that, I want to turn things over to Matt and have him walk us through a number of different topics related to this.
Thank you, Brent.
Thanks.
Yeah, now let me be very clear. Brent said we're from Dallas, Texas. I want to be very clear. I'm from Frisco, Texas. And are you guys going to come visit me this year? You guys going to come down? I'll bring up the grill. I'll have adult beverages. You guys come hang out. I'll have plenty of soda. All right. All right. So I've become a closeted North Dakota State University fan. I'm sorry you guys didn't come visit. Here's a bad thing I have to tell you, and I'll be open and honest with you because I don't want you to find out if you come and visit this year. My daughter's looking to go to college. Guess what college she picked? Stephen F. Austin. I'm sorry. Don't boo me. It's my oldest daughter. It's my firstborn. Now, Brent, he didn't tell you he's an Eastern Eagle fan, so you guys trounce on him so you guys can feel sorry for him all you want. My job after lunch is kind of not the funnest thing in the world, especially when you're going to talk about insurance of security. And I don't know, am I projecting out there? I don't see my laptop. Is it out there? I don't see any slides. There we go. Hey, look at that. So this is one of your top concerns, right? When we look at security in your world today, how do you upgrade and maintain your devices? How do you look at security issues? The sad fact of the matter is if you get compromised, the average small business, $35,000. The average small business, if they get compromised, 71% never come back. They go away. We don't like talking about it. Security is kind of like the elephant. It's a hot issue now because we hear all the news. We have WannaCry. Equifax just got breached. All these different things in the world we have today. And how do we protect information? How do we keep our corporate data? How do we keep our devices up to date? There's a recent one that just came out a couple weeks ago with the Bluetooth stack that was compromised, not only on Windows devices, but iPads, Android devices. It was a compromise across the whole stack. How do you protect that? How do you keep those systems up to date? How do you make sure your data doesn't get where it's not supposed to go? When you look at this world that we have, this is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right? Hackers are finding us. They're looking for us. More importantly, you might be thinking, wait a second, how do we look at this landscape? Last year, think about what we looked like a couple years ago. We got a firewall, right? All our devices were behind the firewall. Well, people like Kevin Mitnick, if you haven't read his books, you need to read his books. It's how hackers think. I can walk past your firewall. How many of you have a mean receptionist? Not enough of you. All right, if you have a nice receptionist, how many of them would let me in? If I came, hi, my name is Matt, I'm from Microsoft, can I go see your data center? How many of your receptionists would walk me back to your data center, notify whoever the IT director was, and offer me a cup of coffee as I'm walking back? Does she really know I work for Microsoft? Hopefully. He's shaking his head no. Yeah, exactly right. Hopefully. You got a mean receptionist. That's good. That's perfect, right? People can get around this. But more importantly, guess what? That's not our security boundary anymore. Matter of fact, it never has been. Firewalls have always been kind of the fake, hey, I'm protected. I got a firewall. I'm hard and crunchy on the outside, soft and chewy on the inside. But it's all been about identity. It's always been about identity. And how do we look at this? Everybody's like, identity is the new security boundary or endpoint. No, it always has been. If you don't believe me, go back and get a book. How many have read a book called The Cuckoo's Egg besides me? A couple of you have read it, right? Well, of course you've read it because I've recommended it before, right? Cuckoo's Egg was written by a professor at MIT or Berkeley, I can never remember, a guy named Cliff Stahl. He was a mainframe administrator. He found a 50-cent accounting error for a mainframe for a professor in the university who was on sabbatical. There's no way he could actually log mainframe time. It led him to a hacker in Germany. Really good book, by the way. It's a fun book. It has a chocolate chip cookie recipe inside of it. I'm not making this up, by the way. But identity, user IDs and passwords. Now we're finding, guess what? They're not enough anymore. User IDs and passwords are not enough to secure identity. That's why we have great technologies built into Windows 10 like Hello, or the facial recognition, the thumbprint scanning, the additional pins that tie to your user ID and password. They're all important to us now. Why? Because we want to keep your assets protected. We want to keep that information there. You know, today's landscape, we're everywhere, right? How many of you have a BYOD strategy, or how many of you have an iPad, Surface, mobile device? You're not plugged into the corporate network 24/7. How many of you travel? How do we secure the data? Or more importantly, how do we provide functionality to that data, right? Because everybody knows how to secure a device, right? What's the best way to secure a device? Yeah, turn it off. Not very functional, right? Well, and I would argue turn it off, put it in cement, and then throw it in the ocean. Perfectly secure. Not functional. So how do we actually secure those devices? And the world that we live in today is an amazing world. You know, I have kids. I tell my kids, internet's a great thing. But I also caution them. You know, it's kind of fun when, you know, it wasn't fun. Hopefully nobody got hit by WannaCry. Anybody get hit by WannaCry? Nobody got hit by WannaCry. Good. We didn't get hit in my family either. My kids manage their devices. I've taught them. I was very happy. They all got ice cream that day, so they know keep their devices up to date. I bribe them with food and ice cream. It works. Why? Because I want them to experience the world. Matter of fact, their schools mandate. I mean, it's interesting to me is they can't do their school homework without going on the internet at some level. Now, my daughter, I'm convinced, my youngest, has watched every YouTube video on Minecraft on the planet, but that's what she chooses. Do that, do it safely. All right? Cybersecurity should be a number one priority. If it's not, if you haven't looked in some of those books, if you haven't read The Cuckoo's Egg, if you haven't looked at Kevin Mitnick's books, you want to do that. And that's not an endorsement one way or for Kevin. I just want to let you know that's how hackers think today. It's how they still think in the environment. You also might be thinking, hey, we're a small business. This is pulled from a couple weeks ago. Hackers are targeting you small businesses. Why? You're easier to breach. There's a lot of you. You know, and I tell the story at Microsoft. I've been with the company for a little over 17 years. And I'm in this small side, you know, we work with the business partners, and I work with the small businesses. I work for the EPG. I used to work for American Airlines and Walmart and do all the big IT for those folks. Fact of the matter, small businesses in Microsoft's revenue, about 51% of our business. Well, guess what hackers are realizing? Hey, there's a lot of smaller fish I can go after, a little bit easier for me to do my job. Throw a PowerShell script or some kind of bash script, and away I go. They're coming after you. Why? They're finding it's easier, and there's a whole lot of you. All right, make sense? So when we think about this, how do we secure this environment? And really, we have to look at this holistically, right? There's a lot of vendors out there that do all these different types of solutions, point solutions. And security, you always hear me say, is a layered approach to security. You know, do you guys do assessments? Are any of you breached right now? Do you know if you're breached or not? Because we live in an assumed breach society. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. How quick do you find out, and what do you do to remediate? But we can start by removing some of that risk by looking at the layers. How do you protect your logins today? How many of you have some kind of dual authentication or multi-factor authentication turned on for your company? Once again, not enough of you. You only see a couple hands go up. All of you should have it. And multi-factor authentication could be a phone call to your cell phone. It could be a thumbprint. It could be facial recognition. Everybody thinks Windows Hello is all about the camera. It's not. Windows Hello actually includes PIN technologies, biometric scanning if you have devices that do all that, or if you happen to have a camera. I learned the other day my phone camera is a Windows Hello phone, so I can actually look at my phone, it unlocks for me. Looking at those technologies, having that, how do you secure those IDs and passwords? Complex passwords, password history, those aren't enough anymore. How do we add additional security? How do we prevent those? How do you protect your documents? You just hope when you send somebody a document, they don't share it with the press or share it? Or you just put like a, hey, do not share. How many of you use the red 75-point font? Do not share. Does anybody listen to that? All right, how do we protect those documents? How do we give them applications? How do we access? How do we allow a device to come into our environment? Do we allow iPads, Android devices, Surfaces, or Surface Books, or other devices? Do we allow them in? And what applications do we give them to allow them to maintain and work with the environment? It's a balance of functionality versus security. More importantly, what if that person leaves the company? What do we do with their identity, their data, and their applications that are on that device? How do we remove them? Especially from a licensing standpoint, you want to reallocate that license possibly to somebody else. How do you do that? How do you get rid of that data? All right. How do you secure with BYOD? BYOD is a great concept, but how do we secure the data? And one thing we learned about BYOD when it first came out is people love their pictures of Fluffy the kitten. How many of you take selfies? Be honest. How many take selfies of the food you're eating or drinking? And how many take selfies of your favorite animal, right? Hey, oh, come on now, you guys are all lying to me. Nobody's raising their hands? Yeah, right. All right, I'm going to follow you all on Facebook. I'm going to get the list, and you're going to look for a friend request from Matt. I'm going to see what's going on. The point is, how do we remove data that's just corporate data and leave them alone? Because work-life balance is alive and well. How many of you actually just use your devices just for pure work? How many of you have Candy Crush addictions? It's okay. Or Pokemon Go addiction. Which, by the way, side fun note, Pokemon Go is now the #1 iTunes downloaded app in the iTunes store, or Apple store. You know what was number 2 or number 1 before Pokemon Go? Office. We got disappointed by Pokemon Go. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but the point is, people use our applications. How do we manage those applications? How do we work with those applications? At Microsoft, we look at this at 4 layers, and it's that same 4 questions that we have. We start with the identity. Who's that user? Who's that ID? Do we allow that person to come into our environment? Yes or no? Do we secure that identity? How do we secure that identity? You know, depending on the level of environment, you might have several user IDs and passwords. You might want single sign-on. You might want self-service password reset. How do we secure and work with that identity? Then how do we manage and maintain that device? How do we make sure that device is up to date? How do we make sure that the applications that come out of the device are proper? How do we lock down those applications or manage those applications? What if the user's already downloaded Office and they have their own, they downloaded Office or they're using it? Well, what happens when we become a corporate joined device? How do we manage that application? How do we work with it? Or how do we provide it if it's not there? And that device is going to get data. How do we actually secure that data and protect it from leaking out? Now, fundamentally understand something that I believe, and this is probably because my brother was a cryptographer in the Navy for 20 years. And by the way, that's all I know he did for 20 years in the Navy. Fundamentally, when you give somebody a document, that document's leaked. I don't care if you've given them read-only access. If they have a pen and paper, until we have some kind of security metric that prevents the pen and paper and from somebody writing on pen and paper, the data will be leaked. Now, how trustworthy it is, whole nother conversation. The minute you give somebody a read-only document, assume that document's going to be leaked or breached outside of it. Why? They can see the document. All right, but let me show you what I mean by this. Let's take a look. You guys want to take a look? Okay, let me ask that question again. Do you want to take a look? Yeah, very good. All right. So that's the right answer, by the way, just so you know. So as we do this, I actually am using a little application called SideSync, and I have, holding in my hand, Samsung, just a Galaxy tablet. And in case you're wondering, Microsoft actually did buy this tablet for me. It has a Microsoft asset tag on the back. And my hands are not melting. Notice that? I'm not burning. Nothing's there. Why? Because this is the reality of the world you live in. You might have this, you might have an iPad, but how do we secure this device? So what you actually see with SideSync is you actually see my iPad or my Android device right now displaying on the screen. But it's up here. And by the way, it's a cool little app if you've never seen it that we have. So, but it's weird, though, is having to use, let me go back. Let me go to this. So I'm going to bring up Outlook. Probably the first thing we do every morning is we bring in Outlook. Now, the one thing you'll see here is I'm being asked for an additional PIN. This is securing that identity, securing that device. It's all part of this story. Notice I haven't sent a single product yet. I haven't told you what's happening on the covers. Do you really care what's happening on the covers? No, I want to lock the data down. So I've been forced to PIN. So what if somebody stole this device? They couldn't open up the application to get a hold of corporate data. I'm already starting to protect this device, which is a simple PIN number. Now what's funny, because the only thing I don't like about SideSync, you're going to see my very secure PIN. Okay. And then this is my corporate email that I have. I'm logged in as a persona named Isaiah, so all the emails will be addressed to Isaiah. It's actually just a quick environment I have for demonstration. It is a fully functioning environment, so I can actually click in the wrong areas. I can blow up this demo, which is always kind of fun to do, that we have. And I'm going to open up a document here. I'm just going to open up an email from Alex. It has just a proposal document, just a simple Word document. I'm going to open that document up. And it's going to give me this file that I can work with. So now I've given this user data. I have a managed application. You saw that I brought up Outlook, secured the identity, secured the app with the PIN number. Okay, and you didn't see the actual logging because I wanted to do that before I got up on stage and they make sure it was going to work. Now I have data on this document. Now what can I do with this data? I'm an employee of this company. Well, you know what? I want to save this file to my local environment. This might be a bit hard to see, but hopefully we'll see it. I'm just going to do a save as, and I'm going to put it on my local device. Notice what comes up. It's kind of hard to see, but let me read it to you. It says, save as has been disabled by your IT group. I'm preventing the ability to save locally. I actually control where I can save this document. If I allow the local device, or if I allowed Box or non-approved, non-company apps, how many of you know if your employees share documents with each other across OneDrive or Google Docs or Box or Dropbox? How do you prevent it? Do you know if you're preventing it? Because I'm willing to bet it's, I don't know if I like the term, but it's kind of fun to say shadow IT, right? Why? They're finding ways to work around your IT security policies. Trust me, if you haven't blocked it, they're using it. We have studies that show all this. They're putting their corporate data on their personal storage locations. Do you want that to happen? Yes or no? How do you prevent it? How do you let the user know, hey, we don't allow this, but if I wanted to save it to the SharePoint location, I could because it's part of that business location. So I'm going to go back a step here. You know what? Maybe I can't save it, but let me just go ahead and select this paragraph. And I'm just going to copy that, because I'm a smart user. I can't save as, but you know what? I'm going to copy and paste it to a local document. So I'm just going to go File, New, and we're going to put it on that. Notice my default location is my business OneDrive location. I'm going to say this device. And I'm going to bring it in here, and I'm going to, I always do that wrong. I want to right-click. It's, my tendency to do this. So I'm just going to bring up that document, and I'm just going to do a Control-V. And notice I selected a paragraph. What did it say here? Your device policy does not allow this to happen. I'm preventing this. I even can prevent screenshotting technology. So all those devices, hey, you press the home button, the power button, it takes a screenshot. It prevents that as well. When we look at this, we're all trying to protect leakage of this data, what I would call honest mistakes, right? Or things that people are trying to work around your security policies. This is stuff that's here. Now, what's fun about this particular functionality you're seeing here, it used to not even work. You would bring up the menu to copy and paste. Paste wouldn't be an option. You couldn't do Control-V. It just nothing would happen. And the reason we changed the policy for this is people thought their applications were broken and were reloading their applications. Something was wrong with it. All right. Pretty nice. You guys like that so far? Yes, no, maybe? All right. So let me go back to my Northwind proposal document. I also want you to make note just of something really quick, because hopefully this one will work. This one, just depending on how the wireless is going to work, may or may not actually function. I want you to notice that in that list, I have corporate documents. And if you look at the top document, the Northwind proposal that I'm going to go into, and the very bottom one are coming from corporate locations. There's a couple others, like document one, a blank document that's there to work with. Because I want to make those go away, hopefully, here in a second. But I'm going to go on Northwind proposal. Bring back this document as, what if everybody has a cell phone, right? AKA my selfie camera. All right, what happens if I take a picture of this? What if I actually point it at my screen and take a picture? Wouldn't that be cool if it prevented it? It actually would be, but it really, and for those of you in the front row, you can see it, it really did just take a picture of my screen. Oh, come on, that was good. Everybody's going, what, it does that? No, it doesn't do that. All right, I would love to say it does. It's almost impossible to affect the refresh rates, and how will we do that? I mean, technically, that has to be an incredibly hard problem, because every screen that we look at has a different refresh rate. But I will tell you, if this is a rights management protected document, I couldn't display it across Skype for Business or Teams. I couldn't share it. It actually would show up as a black box on the other side. So everybody watching this the way that I can't see anything. We've had this happen. Our boss wanted to share with us some internal emails that were protected emails, just basically direction for our company. It was more so that the information wouldn't leak outside of our organization. He brought up the email, and all we saw on the other side of the call, because my boss lives in LA, all we saw was a black screen of where the email should have been. It wasn't there. All right. So the last thing I want to show you real quick, and then we'll come back and talk through this, is if I go back to the file menu, you notice I'm logged in as Isaiah. I'm just going to do a quick sign out. It's going to sign out. What happened to all my recent documents? It removed them. It removed all the shortcuts. If I go up here that says, where do I want to create my device? Notice it removed my corporate locations. it automatically removes it. It doesn't show me that unless I sign in. You want to come to my corporate location, you got to have a valid user ID and password. I, as an administrator, or even Isaiah, the user I was logged into, actually could even go to a portal and do a selective wipe and remove just the corporate data off that device. But the fact of the matter, if this device is locked, they'll come back in, they'd have to try to put a PIN number, they couldn't put a PIN. The hacker would say, okay, I can't get a PIN, they'll cancel it. App would come up, allow them local access to whatever data is there locally, would not allow them to access to corporate data. What do you guys think? Good stuff? Did you even think we could do something like that at Microsoft? Because you saw, by the way, even though I didn't mention any technologies, that was a 100% Microsoft solution on the back end. All right? And most of you are already using some of the components, but you may not realize it. That's what it looks like when we have a secure and managed device. Perfectly functional. I could open up emails, I could open up documents, I could work with it, I could save it where I was supposed to save. I could do my job. I had to manage applications, but how do I work with that data and how do we see? So I have just a few minutes left, but I want to kind of take you through what did we just see. So I'm going to kind of peel back the onion, open up the car hood, whatever you want to say, double click into it, which by the way is I hate that phrase. Let's double click into that. No, I hate that. You just heard me say it, but you'll never ever say it again. Let's see what happened underneath the covers there of what's going on. And what you saw across that entire suite was identity and access management, mobile device and application management, information protection, and behavior-based. The only one you didn't see is behavior-based analytics, and this one's actually pretty cool. This one would have helped my buddy Cliff Stoll. Matter of fact, Cliff Stoll was the behavior-based analytics. He knew the professor, was a friend of him, was on a sabbatical. There's no way he could use mainframe. So what if you log in every day from Fargo? You log in every morning from Fargo, then all of a sudden your ID logs in from Fiji. One of two things. Either you're on a really, really good vacation to a really, really warm location, or you've been compromised. We actually can track that. We can look for that login activity. We can actually track those behavior-based analytics of what's going on in the world. We can even take this further and look at what's happening in the world today. That we have some great threat protection here to help secure your environment. You know, Microsoft sometimes, especially when we first started getting into the client-server industry, I remember, my first certification was back in the NT 351 days when the default permission for file shares was everyone full control. That doesn't happen anymore. If you're not given express permission to a document, you don't get in. We are very much a security-focused company. It's baked into all of our products, and we're trying to do it in a way where it's not intrusive. User account control, I loved it, but the first time it came out, it kind of smacked you in the head saying, hey, I want to get the document. No, you're not an admin. Now it's kind of more behind the covers. It'll give you admin access for what you need to do. The minute you're done doing it, it takes it away, as long as you have those valid credentials. Once again, user IDs and passwords. Some things that identity and access management that we didn't see that gives you the ability to do self-service password resets, gives you the ability to do single sign-ons, gives you the ability to do multi-factor authentication. That's all baked into our identity solutions that we have. Now, I'm not saying go deploy all this at once. Take it to a tiered approach. Look to Network Center to help you step through this. What's important to your company? If you have Office 365, today, you better be securing those identities. Better looking at multi-factor authentication, doing things like self-service password resets to save calls to your help desk or to Network Center's help desk. Let your users get back to their work. Single sign-on, amazing things we can do. Azure Active Directory, which is one of the components that runs our identity management, today can speak to over 2,900 different SaaS applications in the world today, and you can set up single sign-on or same sign-on to those applications just by configuring them. Having Network Center coming in and doing analysis. If you don't think you use SaaS applications, I got another story. We have tools. We can show you what SaaS applications you're not using. It's pretty interesting to see when I actually have been in those meetings where customers say, yeah, we don't use any cloud applications. They run the assessment tool and they see that their entire company's using it, or they've hired a vendor that's using cloud applications. How do we have for single sign-on for that? We can do that very easily. Identity approaches all of this. I'm a huge fan of this. The great thing about this, as I mentioned before, all of you have Office 365, which means you're in Azure already. It means you already have Azure Active Directory. You already have a step ahead to help secure those identities, to add things like multi-factor authentication. Start there. It is important. Only a couple of you raised your hands. It's built-in features to Office 365 today. Have Network Center help you. Trust me, it's worth it. I will tell you, you might not like the login activity you have to do when you first log in, or you might configure it. Well, I don't have to have the phone ring every time. Or every time I log in, my phone's going to ring and make sure I'm a valid user. You can configure those things very easily. The official products you saw inside that list across that stack was Azure Active Directory Premium, Azure Rights Management for my document, a mobile application management that was actually managing the application, preventing the local save. And then Intune was the overall plumbing of this. So Intune's what delivers all the policies down to that device. It's what controls that selective wipe if we need to do it. But it's kind of the thing that just makes sure that device is managed and maintained for us. Now, I know if you've looked at Intune a couple years ago, especially compared to some of our competitors, Mobile Iron, AirWatch, and even MOS 360, we weren't there feature functionality there. We are there now. But more importantly, when you look at the whole overall cost of the solution, Mobile Iron, AirWatch, MOS 360, solid products, but they don't do anything about your identity. They don't do anything about your document protection. They manage the devices, and generally they're managing the applications. They're getting pretty good at that. But they don't do the whole story. You have to buy somebody else like Okta or Adobe or Good or somebody else to add different components, and all you're doing is adding vendors and adding costs to your solutions. We can do this with one product suite. And this one I just like to bring out. I'll make sure you get the slides later after the fact. It just kind of gives you an idea. I like this slide for a couple points I want to highlight for you. First off, that entire suite from a Microsoft perspective is $875 a month per user, period, end of statement. If you were to look at the individual components by themselves, it's about $20. And oh, by the way, this also includes a Windows Server CAL in this as well. So from a price point functionality, you actually get a CAL plus all those products. If you're going to buy one or two of them, buy the whole suite. You don't have to roll it out at once. You don't have to roll it all out together. But start protecting your documents. Start protecting your security. Bring in Network Center to help you lay out the roadmap for this. Partners, as Brent got up and talked about, partners drive our business. Why? You need, especially from a security standpoint, you need somebody to come in and be mean to you. You need that mean receptionist that you're not really secure. Well, yeah, we're really secure. No, you're not, and here's why. You need somebody to come in as an unbiased, paid professional to help you understand what's there. But more importantly, if you're using any of the documents in that compete, you're just basically adding complexity to your environment. This is one suite. Microsoft is friendly. You saw me do it on an Android. Works the same on an iPad, works the same on a Windows device. The only difference is the form factor. How big is the screen? How do I move around? How do I share it out? How I can look at those types of things. You definitely want to look at solutions to help work with this. If you have Office 365 today, I would love for everybody just to start securing identities. You have the ability to do single sign-on, multi-factor authentication for your Office 365 apps today. But generally speaking, customers like yourselves, you have more and more apps. You want to secure them across the entire environment. You might need more, but you have some of this built-in technology already. It comes with 365. Use it. Use it, please. It's going to help you keep protected. And then if you want to take it to the next step, all EMS does is extend that. The biggest thing that it gives you, I love Azure Active Directory. It takes you from a basic Azure AD tenant to a premium Azure AD tenant, which opens up how many more apps you can do, does multi-factor for all the workloads that user will use. It opens up the whole kind of Pandora of what we can do, preventing copy and paste, personal apps. Some of those demonstrations you saw, I have to have EMS to work. But if you like that, say, wow, we really need to lock down our documents, one vendor does it all. We do all of this now. You may not have thought of Microsoft as doing this, but we look at our cloud. I mean, it's funny. When Satya came on board as our CEO, one of the first things he did was release the applications for an iTunes so he could have Office on those devices. And the next thing he basically said, you know what? We got to secure those devices. We got to embrace the heterogeneous world. All of our cloud technologies do that today. 1 in 4 Azure virtual machines that are stood up by customers like yourself today, if you use Azure, 1 in 4 of those machines is Linux today. Some version of Linux, either Ubuntu, Red Hat, CentOS, or CentOS, depending on who you talk to. All right? We embrace this world. We want to help secure it. We want to make sure that you're doing things safe and being productive. And with that, I got a minute, and I'm actually ahead of time. I got a second or two for questions, or what do you guys think? Was that good stuff?